Hello and welcome. You're watching News Central TV. It's time for News Now. I am Judith Atibi. The top stories at this hour. Nigeria's Court of Appeal to get 22 new justices today. House of Representatives ask federal government to suspend Samoa agreement over concerns about embedded terms. Mali says its exit from ECOWAS alongside Niger and Burkina Faso is irrevocable. We'll bring you the details shortly. And we'll begin with Judiciary in Nigeria, where the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Olukayode Ariwoola, will inaugurate 22 new justices of the Court of Appeal on Wednesday. The inauguration will significantly raise the number of the court's serving justices to 88, up from its current 66. A statement by the Supreme Court's Director of Press, Festus Akande, said the swearing-in ceremony of the 12 new justices would take place at 10 a.m. at the main courtroom of the Supreme Court in Abuja. The Court of Appeal, which ranks behind the Supreme Court as the second highest court in Nigeria, sits panels in 21 divisions scattered across various states and the FCT. Already, the CJN had been billed to swearing 12 new justices of the Federal Capital Territory FCT High Court, Abuja, at the same time and venue. And let's now tell you about Nigeria, where the President Bola Tinubu's approval of the establishment of a new Ministry of Livestock Development. Now, this announcement was made as he inaugurated the Renewed Hope Livestock Reform Implementation Committee at the State House in Abuja. Now, the committee is tasked with providing sector-focused solutions to address the long-standing farmers-herders conflict. On September 14, 2023, the National Livestock Reforms Committee recommended the creation of a Ministry of Livestock Resources to help reduce the decades-long violent conflict between farmers and nomadic cattle herders across the country. The establishment of the new ministry is part of 21 recommendations in a document submitted to the President aimed at enhancing the federal government's comprehensive response to the ongoing violence. So to discuss this further, I'm being joined by the co-founder and Chief Technology Officer, Livestock 247, Dauda Wogu. Dauda, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you for doing this with us this morning. Let's get started, right? A new livestock ministry. I would first like to ask about, this coinciding with, the Ministry of Agriculture. So how do you think the new livestock ministry will shake things up in the government? I mean, when you think about the other departments that are available, how would there be any impact so far?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me once again. For us in the practicing sector, the livestock industry, I'm talking from the private sector perspective, having this will really open up the economy for all the players, all the sector stakeholders. And when you look at it for many years, agriculture in Nigeria is crop biased, meaning everything is about crops. So less emphasis is made on livestock. And there have been a lot of interventions, a lot of programs trying to develop the livestock sector, which since 2020 to date, so many things have been happening. So for us, having a ministry dedicated, focused on livestock development is a plus to this administration. And also it will help to enhance and also open up the livestock sector for investments, for people to really key in. And because this is a ₦1 trillion business.
No questions asked there, but one of the questions that have been on the lips of many critics who are looking at this move is that there is already a Ministry of Agriculture. Shouldn't there be this committee that has been sworn in or inaugurated? Shouldn't it be part of the Ministry of Agriculture? Should there not be an arm of agriculture that is dedicated and focused to livestock?
We already have that existing for years.
So is that not a clash between the two? Then, when you think about Stephen Oransaya's report on the duplicity that we see in the MDAs, which is the ministry, department, and agencies.
But come to think of it, when you look at it in this regards, now that industry, that sector for years has been suffering. And the Ministry of Agriculture is very large. There are a lot of things they are doing, and their focus is towards crops. Now, having livestock will really open up a lot of things. Like if you see from the report, issue of farmer harder crisis, for years it has been going on. And everything, when you come to Ministry of Agriculture, their focus is always on crops. So for us in this industry, livestock, this ministry is a lifesaver for us. And it will channel all the energy, all the resources, all the programs will be channeled towards that, so they will be focused. So when you look at it from different perspectives, you see, issue of saying whether it should be merged or not merged, it should be put, it has been there under Ministry of Agriculture for years. There has not been any improvement. So, yes, there has been slight, let me give it to them, but having this, it's a game changer for the industry.
How is it a game changer?
Let's look at the positive angle.
Dauda, how is it a game changer? I would like for you to be, more specifics. One of the things the presidency have said with this ministry is that it hopes to bring an end to the farmer-herder clash that we have witnessed in the country. How is that going to happen with this new ministry? How do you foresee this happening?
Okay, now, for instance, when you look at the whole issue, as a technology person, one of the key things we've been agitating and we've been pushing to the government is to have a kind of animal identification. Now, when you have an animal identification system, which means it helps to mitigate this farmer herder crisis that is going on for years. For example, I'll give an instance. When you have a cattle that goes to a particular farmland, eats up all the crops, now with identification, you can tell this cattle belongs to Mr. XYZ. And instead of fighting, you just tell the person, pay a fee for the damage which your cattle have caused on this farm. Now, for years, this has been going on. We've been lobbying it, we've been pushing it, but the Ministry of Agriculture doesn't see it as an issue. So now, when you now look at farmer herder crisis as one aspect, livestock development is not only about farmer herder crisis. It is one aspect, but there are other demands you look into. You look at infrastructure development. You look at traceability. You look at feed. You also look at veterinary services. You look at empowering the smallholder farmers. But for years, everything has been crop bias. This is the point. So for us, this, not only about livestock farmer herder crisis, no, but about the whole value chain, improving on it, creating jobs. This is the essence. We should look at it from that positive angle. And when we talk of livestock, we're not talking only cattle. We're looking at pigs. We're looking at sheep, goats, poultry. Horse, it's a whole new thing. But limiting it to farmer herder crisis, honestly, we're not justifying the ministry. That's the whole point where we're looking at it from. So we should look at it from a different lens, for God's sake.
Let's look at it from the different lens that you said and talk about the opportunities that you just mentioned that opened up, right? So, I mean, how would there be likely opportunities for private companies to partner with, government on livestock projects that you just mentioned in terms of PPP? How can they strike a balance between profit and public interest?
Oh, excellent. Very, very nice question. Now, if you look at from the South, for instance, there's a lot of initiative private sectors have been doing. They've been setting up ranches, right? Trying to have their own way of solving those kind of issues within their communities. And when you look at it from that perspective, for private sector, people to come and invest into it, they need to see government making commitment into it in terms of security, for instance, in terms of having those infrastructure. For instance, take the cattle market, for example. This is a ₦1 trillion industry that happens every week, off record. Now, if you have infrastructure around those markets, very good water supply, enough gates, enough security for those markets, it will thrive. And that will allow investors to come in. Now, for instance, if you are to invest into livestock, for instance, fattening, take that for example, without identification, which means how do you identify or how would insurance company come in to even insure that your animal? Now, having this kind of things in place, it gives confidence for private sector to come in. A lot of people have funds, they want to go into that industry. Because if you look at it, it's not like crops that is seasonal. Livestock production is continuous. So this ministry will set up the right policy that will encourage people to come in and invest into the sector. So that's the key thing for us. So having that policy, the infrastructure in place, private sectors will come in. They are already doing that with all the challenges. So look at in a scenario whereby government has come in to step up to say, okay, we'll provide all these things for you, enable environment, come in and invest. Of course, everybody will come in. So it's all over the world. That's what has been practiced. So really, well, Mr. President, really key on this, honestly. Well, with you on this.
Let's see what the next couple of weeks and months will look like, and the next 1 year in establishing this ministry would look like in terms of their scorecard. But Dauda, many thanks for coming on. Appreciate
you. To be promising.
Thank you. And that's Dauda Ugo. He's the co-founder and chief technology officer, Livestock 247. In the meantime, we'll move away from that now, and now to Nigeria's House of Representatives. They have now urged the federal government to suspend the implementation of the recently signed Samoa Agreement, which has been an issue of controversy pending the conclusion of an investigation into the matter. Now, this followed the adoption of a motion calling the attention of the House to some allegedly offensive clauses, which lawmakers say are noted in the agreement. Lawmakers, while expressing divergent views, urged the House to reject the Samoa Agreement entirely while calling for the suspension of its implementation.
That the phrase gender equality, as reported, is a Trojan horse for deceptively bringing in all sorts of immorality to our country, as gender no longer means sexes, male and female, as traditionally understood. It now includes homosexualism, lesbianism, transgenderism, and animalism. Further worried that the signing of such an agreement with the aforementioned clauses, if true, violate our sovereignty and is a clear contravention of Section 12(1) of 99 Constitution as amended.
There is no portion of that agreement that talks about LGBTQ or 150 billion. Hold on, let me finish. If you have it, bring it out here. I'll show it. In fact, 3 ministers have come out, including information, budget, and planning, in public to say there was nothing like that in the agreement.
This is the amendment. Mr. Speaker, agreement upon agreement has been signed by Nigeria in order to improve the Nigerian economy. But Mr. Speaker, everybody knows that instead for the economy to progress, it's now retrogressing like a wildfire. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, we urge and we tell everybody, no matter how much money Nigeria is going to get from this thing, the handlers of the current economy could not fix the economy. Therefore, this should be rejected in totality.
A constitutional amendment bill to improve women's representation in Parliament through the introduction of special seats has scaled second reading in the House of Representatives. The lawmakers were on Tuesday divided on the bill. While some wholly supported it, others called for critical observation as they draw attention to the provision of the Constitution that warned against making discriminatory laws. The bill had failed in the Constitution amendment process of the 9th Assembly when it was voted against by Parliament. Nigeria's Minister of Works has given contractors handling the federal government's renewed Hope emergency projects a 3-month ultimatum to deliver or face the risk of having their contracts revoked. The minister, in a meeting with some of the contractors in Abuja, urged them to commence work immediately on the sites. He accused some of them of frustrating the efforts of government, saying that despite collecting award letters for about 260 emergency projects, many of them have refused to honor their contractual obligations.
People are suffering. The president is having sleepless night how to help the people. And then we give people jobs and they are telling us stories. There have been jobs awarded by this ministry in the past, money paid, then the contractors held the money. Oh, there is insecurity. Did you not know about security situation before you got the job? Wednesday is the last day. Anybody taking job in this ministry within these 7 years by God's special grace, whether we agree or not, should be ready to do the job.
And watching news now on News Central TV. We'll take a short break. When we come back, there's more. Stay with us. The long queues for petrol have persisted in the nation's capital, Abuja, while some motorists who spoke to News Central have complained about the long hours they have spent on the queues. Others say the situation is gradually improving. News Central's Emmanuel Bogudu reports.
In what has remained a persistent, recurring problem, the queues have refused to go away. Angry car owners pour their frustrations on each other. This is the busiest NNPC fuel station here at the Central Business District here in Abuja. I've spoken to the manager in charge who says he has a lot of trucks loaded before and that he has been receiving supply and he has been selling and he continue to sell up to tomorrow morning.
It's a very bad experience. It's not easy to buy fuel in Abuja now, these days. It's not easy to buy fuel. I've been in this queue for almost, I can say, for over 2 hours. It's not that I'm even getting very close to the filling station to buy fuel. The price is, I don't know the price for now because I didn't buy fuel since last week. So I don't know the price, but all I know is that I bought fuel on my way coming back from work today. I bought it at 10,000 naira. I bought 10,000 naira fuel, which at the rate of 1,000 naira per liter. Yes, I bought somewhere around Ligwe.
When?
I bought, yeah, today. Wow. Today, I bought 10,000 naira fuel, which I bought it for each liter for 1,000 naira in a filling station.
2 weeks now, I've not fuel by tank, and the cost of fuel is very, very expensive. Sometimes you buy fuel 1,200 per liter just for you to go to office and go back home. I spent almost 1 hour in the queue without fueling, but I believe by God's grace, in a few minutes I'll get the fuel.
It's been so difficult, so hectic, my brother. I've never seen this one for a very long while. Yesterday, I bought fuel. I was at the queue for 7 good hours trying to get fuel. Today I'm back again looking for fuel. So you see how terrible it can be. One spending almost hours at fuel queue. It's really not funny anymore. The price in NNPC here is the same price. They are still this in 619, 617. In other fuel station is higher. So in terms of pricing, nothing has changed. But difficulties in getting it is the problem now.
Yeah, it's not a good experience, but I think today is because the queue is not much like yesterday. It was worse. Yesterday I was not able to get fuel, but today I spent I think like an hour and 30 minutes. I'm about to enter. So today is more better than other days back, like 2-3 days back.
Formerly we used to have a lot of passengers. At times if I come out in the morning from 7, at times I even find it difficult to come down to eat food because when you want to go and eat food, you see another person flagging you down. But this time around, you have a lot of time. At times even you sleep for 1 hour or 2 hours. So it has not been easy.
We have heard them all, and it is hoped that this plea to the government will lead to the end of this scarcity soon. In Abuja for News Central, I'm Emmanuel Bogudu.
Now, in the wake of long queues resurfacing in some states across Nigeria, a coalition of civil society groups has called on Nigerians to avoid panic buying and support the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL. The group explained that distribution of petroleum products is not solely the responsibility of the NNPCL, but other stakeholders who should play their part so as to ensure smooth sale and distribution of petroleum products across the country. News Central's Bernard Akede has more in this report.
Long fuel queues are again beginning to spring up in Abuja and other parts of the country. As Nigerians are getting agitated, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, and oil marketers are shifting blame on the actual cause of the current spate of petrol supply shortage in the country. This back and forth has prompted a response from a coalition of civil society groups in Lagos who have commended the efforts of the NNPCL, stating that the job of petroleum product distribution should not be left to the NNPCL alone, but other stakeholders who need to equally pull their weight.
To have a sustainable solution to the sector's challenges, it requires a concerted effort from all stakeholders. These stakeholders, include, the oil marketers, the depot owner, the workers, even the media. You have amplified a lot of issues around this, product supply scarcity challenges on a number of times. And of course, us as a civil society. And we believe that every stakeholder at this point must come to join hand with the NNPC Limited in collaborative approach.
Here in Lagos, the nation's commercial city, the situation is slightly different. Stations like the one you can see behind me, NNPCL, are the ones that have long queues right in front of them. And this is because these are the stations that sell at the cheapest prices. For other stations that sell at higher prices, they are either closed or they hardly have any queues in front of them. Different stations selling at different prices for those who have products available, while for those who don't, they remain short. There are concerns that some Nigerians may soon engage in panic buying. The coalition group believes the petroleum industry needs to allow for more engagement with the people, and the citizens need to show more concern for the NNPCL and the industry in general.
In essence, what we are saying is that there is need for the oil and gas sector to open its door of citizens' engagement. We have done this before, and many of us have understood it with the police and the security agencies. If you see something, say something. If you know any filling station extorting or hoarding the product, please reach out to the NNPC.
In order to address this looming fuel crisis, the NNPC has ordered that its stations across the country be open for extra hours so that Nigerians can purchase petroleum products. The hope is that this action by the NNPC will ensure that the crisis would reduce and that other stations will have the products to sell and distribute to the country. In Lagos for News Central, I'm Bernard Akede.
Earlier, a chartered accountant, Akin Fatuke, joined us on the news to discuss this. Take a look.
You strive, and then what then do you expect for food inflation that is over 40%? Even urban inflation, before you can say Robinson before Jack, everything's going up. At a time when you know that the cost of living itself is gone beyond the roof. It's the electricity tariff that we are battling with. Is it trying to secure water for yourself, said Lord Tennyson, or is it the cost of trying to dispose your waste? The rural inflation too will be on the slide. Now, the rickety transportation that we have in urban areas will naturally want to be on the road. And if they are going to be on the road, they will have to go to the black market. Now, for you and I, Felicity, who are neither here or there.
The Niger Delta Development Commission has presented its 2024 budget proposal of about 1,911,800,000,000 naira to the House of Representatives for consideration and possible approval. The management of the commission, while appearing before the House Committee on the NDDC, says that the commission hopes to source about 1 trillion naira from its proposed budget from commercial banks.
The ceremonial presentation of the 2024 budget proposal of the Niger Delta Development Commission. The performance of previous budgets of the Commission was ruled out by the management as they called for speedy approval of the new proposal.
Within the President's one-year anniversary commemoration, we were able to commission some landmark projects such as the 27.5-kilometer route in Bayelsa, linking Oborevwori to Nembe, that has about 7 bridges and 50 culverts. Then the transmission and injection substation in Okitukupa that gives light to about 5 local governments that have been in darkness for 15 years.
The management says that the 2024 budget proposal will focus on critical infrastructure in the Niger Delta region with an estimate of over 800 billion naira.
1 trillion that is being borrowed. First thing first, let us place it on record that this money is going to be tied to specific projects, because the marching order that was given to us by Mr. President is to ensure that all abandoned legacy projects must be completed.
The chairperson of the House of Representatives Committee on the NDDC expressed Parliament's commitment to ensure thorough examination of the budget proposal for the good of the people of the Niger Delta.
It is, however, our responsibility as a committee to scrutinize every detail of the proposal to ensure that we are making the best decision for the organization and the people of the region and stakeholders.
To enable lawmakers conduct proper scrutiny of the proposal before them, the chairperson of the NDDC committee urged the NDDC management to make available the last 2 budgets of the commission. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idonk Joseph.
Disability rights advocates have called for the stricter sanctions against persons and agencies that flouts the law against discrimination of persons living with disabilities. This was as the Nigeria Accelerates Disability Inclusion in Emergency Forum meeting, which is holding in Abuja. News Central's Imano Bogudu reports.
It's been 6 years since the passage of Nigeria's Act Against Discrimination of Persons Living with Disabilities. Stakeholders in appraising strides made since the passing of the Act Against the Discrimination of Persons Living with Disabilities in 2018 converged on the nation's capital, Abuja, for the Accelerate Disability Inclusion in Emergency Forum. The platform comprised of disability rights advocates, federal lawmakers, and stakeholders from the disability community in Nigeria.
Persons with disabilities are over 30 million in Nigeria and face several challenges every day, including discrimination, stigmatization, lack of physical access, lack of employment, lack of educational opportunities, and a lot of issues in our health system.
This program should provide discounted and free transportation vouchers, passes, and dedicated transportation services to ensure affordable and accessible transportation options for persons with disabilities.
Things would have improved in the sense that we have gone on media, we have put out articles, we have called on the president, we have called on the ministries that are responsible to work on accessible transportation system that will serve our community. But it's been 1 year. And nothing has been done. I dey lie. Exactly, nothing has been done.
The meeting is aimed at finding solutions to the widespread challenges affecting people with disabilities, ranging from lack of inclusion, discrimination, lack of access to education, amongst others.
Just recently I came from an oversight of one of the health institutions, and I had to call the engineer constructing one of the blocks in the hospital to hold the construction because there was no access for people with disability to access the world.
The issues that they faced during COVID were exponentially, I don't want to say more, but different than you would imagine your fellow neighbors were going to experience when you had to be on lockdown as well. So it moved from that to being sort of in response to the removal of fuel subsidies. While there was still efforts going on to address the COVID issues that were compromising persons with disabilities, then in comes the fuel subsidy removal. I'm not pointing fingers at anybody or any of that, but it did cause an emergency.
We started supporting nano and small business owners, and what we did this time around is we set up an ad hoc to focus on people with disabilities that own nano businesses. We partnered with Touch Bank to help them with a business plan, open bank accounts, and we gave them a seed capital of 100,000 naira. That's in Kaduna North. Of course, I would like that replicated at a higher level. I think what we need is more compassion, as I said, and the chairman is an experienced member, and I'm hoping that with my position as chairman banking, we could put some pressure on the commercial banks to be a model, a pilot of ensuring that public buildings have the necessary facilities like wheelchair ramps, signages, and audio, just so we could make it easier for our brothers and sisters.
The forum is expected to make far-reaching recommendations that will help the review and amendment of Nigeria's law against the discrimination of persons with disabilities. In Abuja for News Central, I am Emmanuel Bagudu.
The governor of Delta State, South Nigeria, Sheriff Oborevwori, Tuesday said the ban on commercial motorcycle, popularly known as Okada, had led to a noticeable reduction in crime rate in Asaba and its environs. Governor Oborevwori disclosed this when he received on courtesy call the Forum of Female Permanent Secretaries in the state, led by the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Environment, Mininie Oseji. The governor said no effort would be spared in creating a conducive work environment for civil servants to operate, apart from giving them platforms to be trained and retrained for maximum productivity.
Started in Asaba and Worry. We actually need it now. Now that the people are clamoring that there should be no Okada in Asaba. Since the issue of Okada, since the ban of Okada in Asaba, the crime has reduced. If you see initially I was reluctant. Let's say you say we need to do this. Security agencies we need to do this. They even go to the inside the Chiago, kidnap people and do so many things. But today, I think those things have already reduced by the grace of God. We'll think of this best solution to provide transport for our people, especially the civil servant, go to work.
You're watching news now on News Central TV. Coming up, Mali reiterates Sahel State's revocable withdrawal from bloc. We'll bring you details after the break. News now continues in West Africa, where Mali's Foreign Minister Abdoulaye Diop has reiterated the irreversible exit of his country, Burkina Faso and Niger, from the Economic Committee or Community of West African States, ECOWAS. Despite reconciliatory efforts from the bloc, the military leaders of Niger, Mali and Burkina Faso broke away from regional grouping ECOWAS earlier this year and formed a confederation of their own on Saturday. ECOWAS heads of state met in Abuja a day later and appointed the presidents of Senegal and Togo as mediators of dialogue with the three Sahel states. Diop said Mali remained open to cooperation with ECOWAS during an appearance late Monday on state broadcaster ORTM, but he spoke out against the possible introduction of visas for nationals of the three countries trying or traveling within ECOWAS. Now move away from that now, and this time to Liberia, where its president has announced a 40% reduction in his salary, aiming to set a precedent for responsible governance in the West African nation. The president, who began his 6-year term in January, has committed to improving living conditions, combating corruption, and upholding the rule of law. The statement from the presidency highlighted that the president's voluntary pay cut reflects his determination to lead by example in strengthening government accountability and demonstrating solidarity with the people of the nation. Previously earning a gross annual salary of $13,400, the president's new salary will be approximately $8,040. His assets declaration in June, which was published as a transparency measure, listed his net worth at $970,419, primarily in property. The declaration did not specify any additional allowances on top of his salary. And now to discuss this further, I'm being joined on the news by the National Programs Manager, Federation of Liberian Youth, and that's Samuel Pator. Samuel, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you for coming on. Let's get started. 40% slash in salary is quite huge, you know. So how do you view the president's decision to slash his salary by 40%? And do you think this sets a positive example for responsible governance in Liberia like he hoped it would?
Well, thank you again. Well, I think it is a good thing. It is a good initiative. Former President George Weah did cut his salary by 25%, but civil society actors and professionals couldn't really see where exactly the 25% cut was going towards. We're hoping that this 40% cut, which is a significant cut by the current president, will be clearly visible, or we will see where exactly this 40% cut is going in terms of development. We think this is a welcome endeavor, and we also urge the president to go ahead and cut medical benefits like entertainment and other benefits that makes the salary for running his office to over $3 million.
Right. Some critics argue that the salary cut is symbolic and doesn't address the broader economic challenges facing Liberia. What are your thoughts on this perspective?
Well, we think right now the state of our economy and the state of our finances is not in a really good place, and so we don't see yet the visible impact of such a cut until the government can actually show us that, okay, we cut the 40% from the president's salary, and this is where exactly that money is going towards. If the government cannot demonstrate that, then the 40% cut will just be something very, very symbolic. If you look at the president's national agenda, the arrest that speaks to things around agriculture, rule of law, rules, the education, sanitation, and other things, you realize that 40% cut in salary and the reflection on the overall current national budget is not as realistic as we have hoped for the president. So let's hope to see that the 40% cut is very, very significant, and they can actually point to the fact that 40% of our salary was cut, from the president said this is where exactly the money was directed towards.
Lawmakers recently protested that their lack of official cars by arriving at the parliament in tuk-tuks, as we over here is called keke marwa. But what does this protest signify to you about the current state of government responsiveness to the needs of ordinary Liberians?
Well, essentially, I feel like there is a political football game being played here. We're hoping that the presidency and the House of Representatives can resolve whatever issues that they have. Because if you look at the way the government is currently structured, the Liberian Senate is controlled by the members of the president's, the political alliance, while the House of Representatives is controlled by a major opposition bloc. Now, we've seen that the Liberian Senate has been receiving its required support, whereas the House of Representatives, has been it's been ignored and, not being paid attention to by the executive. So that arriving in Keke by the House of Representatives members was a show of protest. And right now, as we're speaking, the House has summoned the Minister of State for Presidential Affairs, the Minister of State without portfolio, and also some members of the President's cabinet to answer questions for a controversial 284 yellow machines or earth-moving equipment that was purchased without going through the proper channels. So there's a lot of tension brewing between the House of Representatives and the presidency, and we're hoping that this can be resolved as soon as possible. The House of Representatives see that as their constitutional responsibility to check meeting the work of the executive, and the executive see it as politicization of development in the country. So we look forward to current developments in the next few days in Liberia, and we're hoping that whatever issues exist between the House of Representatives and the executive branch of government can be resolved as soon as possible.
All right. Well, Samuel, thank you so much. We appreciate you for coming on. That's Samuel Bator. He is the National Programs Manager, Federation of Liberian Youth, and was talking to me about the presidency's 40% salary slash. Samuel, many thanks again. And we move now to Southern Africa, where the Zimbabwe government, through its Ministry of Health and Child Care, is set to introduce a universal hepatitis B vaccine for all newborn babies, a move to address the spread of hepatitis B. This initiative aims to prevent the transmission of the viral infection from infected mothers to their infants. According to Zimbabwe Health and Child Care Minister, the implementation of the hepatitis B vaccine is also a crucial step towards the triple elimination of mother-to-child transmission of HIV, syphilis, and hepatitis B. The hepatitis B virus, HBV, which causes the illness, is primarily transmitted through contact with infected bodily fluids such as blood, semen, or saliva. Many people with hepatitis B don't show any symptoms. You're watching news now on News Central TV. We're going to a short break. When we come back, there's more on the other side. Stay with us. And now to bring you business, let's join our business desk for today's business news.
Welcome to Business News. We begin in Nigeria. The number of active internet service providers, or ISPs, in Nigeria dropped to 242 in July from 252 in May as operators failed to renew their licenses. Challenges faced by ISPs include anti-competition practices, inadequate spectrum, high bandwidth costs, and lack of good corporate governance. The launch of 5G by MTN and Airtel led some enterprise customers to switch to 5G routers, worsening competition with ISPs. The leading ISPs had 262,206 active customers in the first quarter of 2024, while the four major mobile operators had 163.8 million active internet subscriptions. The final award by the International Arbitration Tribunal in the Eni and Vito versus Ghana and GNPC case is in favor of Ghana. Eni and Vito's monetary damages claim initially at $7 billion was denied, and the claim was reduced to $915 million plus interest during the proceedings. All claims against GNPC were dismissed. The tribunal rejected a request to declare Ghana in breach of the petroleum agreement, but found that the unitization directives breached the agreement. Ghana's sovereign right to unitize oil fields was affirmed, while each party will bear its own legal fees and costs. In East Africa, Kenya has imposed a new obstacle on Uganda's direct fuel import scheme by doubling the bond fee for consignment destined for Kampala to $45 million. This increase poses a challenge to Uganda's efforts to lower pump prices. The Vito Tank Terminal International VTTI storage facility in Mombasa, which connects to the Kenya Pipeline Company pipeline network, has seen the bond fee requirement rise from $15 million. This change is expected to impact consumers in Uganda, as it may lead to increased costs and demurrage charges. The Bank of Tanzania BOT has decided to maintain the benchmark lending rate at 6% until September 30. This move aims to stimulate consumer and business spending and sustain economic recovery. The BOT's decision aligns with other central banks in the region, including Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda, which are cautiously easing their monetary policies to boost spending power and support economic growth. The BOT expects the Tanzanian economy to continue growing strongly with adequate food supply, improved infrastructure, and increased foreign exchange inflows.
And that's all at this hour, but before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories. Nigeria's Court of Appeal will get 22 new justices today. House of Representatives has asked federal government to suspend some more agreement over concerns about embedded terms. Mali has said its exit from ECOWAS alongside Niger and Burkina Faso is irrevocable. Remember that you can send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number now showing on the screen. And while you're at it, make sure to follow us on social media. We're at News Central TV. You can also watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Judith, Atibi.